Okay, so quick video how to play Sage. I'll start with defense side. We're going to do so. There's two ways of playing Sage using the Sage wall. The first thing you can do is use it near the start of the round, and what you can do is just wall off a choke point. So you can either wall as soon as the round starts, or you can wait for info to see if they're pushing. So what you might do is you wait to hear shots. You might have like a Sova dart or something that hits the wall, detects people, and then you wall. So you know you're not wasting your wall in a spot where it's not needed. So that's one way of doing it. The second thing you can do is just keep the Sage wall, not use it during like the start of the round, and wait and use it on a retake. So you're playing B, you haven't walled, you don't get any contact on B, no one comes B, and they plant A, and then you have to rotate over to A, and then you want to use your wall to protect yourself, maybe while you try and defuse the bomb. So say they've planted here, you've come through, you've got to here, and the bomb's planted here, and you might want to wall off for a bit of cover. So you know the guys at the main or something playing far back, you come here, you wall there or whatever, and you defuse the bomb here. There's less angles they can get you from. You can use it like a smoke to eliminate angles. You don't have to use it just to block like people's entrances. You can use it in like instead of a smoke. And obviously it's more valuable than a smoke in the sense it blocks bullets as well. You can't get sprayed through the Sage wall. So it's a pretty good safety barrier. There's your two ways on defense. Now if you want to attack with a Sage, you're obviously not using it at the start of the round most likely. You're gonna use it in the execute, so you're gonna push onto site. And you're either gonna use it again to block an angle like a smoke, or you're gonna use it for your planter to plant against as a sort of hard cover. So on this site, on B attack, you're gonna the most common wall is just to wall this. Now this doesn't stop you necessarily being shot from heaven. There's still head angles from heaven, but that's where the smokes are going to be. There's going to be a smoke on heaven covering that. What this is for is to stop anyone playing close sight. Someone playing here in this position, you wall, and then you don't need to worry about this angle. You can get straight onto sight, and you only have like a minimal number of angles to worry about. Worry about that, and this minimises. The other thing you could do, and this wouldn't be done on this site necessarily, this is like almost always where the wall goes, but you could use it and plant against it, so you could wall here and then plant right against the wall. It's quite common in other situations, and this means you don't even really need anyone to cover you while you plant. You have your own cover, and other people can be watching other angles while that's happening. The last main thing to know about the Sage wall is on both sides, if you haven't used the wall and you have a res available, you can use the wall to protect you and the person you're resing while you go for the res. So I have a wall left. Let's say I'm pushing B site. One of my entry players has walked out B and died, and we decide actually we want to rotate A, but we want this guy alive, so I'm going to wall and I'm going to res so that the guys on B can't kill me or him while I res him, and then we can res. Then we can go. So for Brimstone, playing Brim, or playing any smokes agent, is most comparable to playing Hard Breacher in Siege. So your main job is to survive up until the point that you've used your util. So staying alive is more important than getting kills. You don't want to be looking for picks, you don't want to be playing solo. You want to be playing with the team, behind the rest of your players. And you want to be smoking off the main angles. So for this site, you want to do one on heaven, and you want to do one on CT there.
Launching smoke.
So these are your two most important smokes. It blocks heaven, and it blocks CT. And this is where it's much easier to cover angles when they're smoked off, because the person trying to peek, they can't challenge angles normally, they have to sort of peek out and they're exposed to multiple angles at once. And the positioning of the smoke is probably the most important thing, not having it too far forward or too far back. So you want it, what you don't want to do is place it too far out towards you, because something like that
Launching smoke.
and actually gives person you're smoking off more options as to where to push. So they can use the smoke to get out and take 1v1s on this guy, for example, without this person over here being able to see them. It can actually enable the other person to isolate single fights. You can peek here and not be exposed to heaven or whatever. So you want the smoke to be sort of edge of the smoke to be where the edge of the thing is. This gives like the most this is the most optimal positioning for blocking off that angle. And you have 3 smokes as Brim, so but they don't recharge. So make sure that when you're using them, your teammates definitely pushing out onto the site, because what you don't want to do is just use all your smokes too early, and then decide you want to go to the other site because you won't get any smokes back. You think so? Yeah. On defense with the smokes, you're kind of doing the same thing, but you're instead of smoking off where they're going to be holding, you're just smoking off their push. And what that's going to do is means they're going to have to use util to try and flash out of the smoke, for example. So if I just smoke that, people are going to be a lot less comfortable now lurking out of here, just like looks like a cypher or someone that's just lurking by themselves trying to sneak out. It's going to be much more intimidating for them to try and push, because again they've got to clear. They can't just clear this angle, then clear this angle, then clear this angle. They have to push out, be exposed to all of them at once. As far as the molly goes, the Molotovs, I mean, you get more use of it on defense probably. This is on defense rounds. This is probably more important to buy than all of the smokes. So I would say, for example, pistol round, you want to be buying this probably, and the pistol or whatever. And you're just going to molly off a choke point. You can do it like I said with the Sage Wall. You can wait for info. You don't necessarily just want to, as soon as the clock hits 140, just fire it somewhere. But let's say, you know, Sova darts, Sova drones, these 3 or 4 be main, and you think, okay, they're going to do a fast push. I'm just going to molly, lay that off. You can also put a molly inside a smoke, for it's harder for them to see. So, I mean, this isn't a very good positioning, but let's say I put a smoke there, I put the molly in. Now the molly will bounce, that's another thing to be wary of. It bounces twice and then detonates. If you're firing sort of straight forwards, make sure to fire it a little bit in front of where you want it to go, because it's going to bounce. And like that, it will bounce funny off objects. So I believe that bounced off that or something, bounced backwards. So that's probably the hardest thing to use on Brimstone, is the molly, just to get used to how it, like the trajectory of it and everything. But yeah, that's on defense. So, same, there's a lot of util that's used the same way, just delaying. It's like using a shield or a barricade, like a castle barricade in Siege. It's the same concept of just delaying time. And then on attack, the molly is a little bit different. I mean, if you've got the bomb down, for example, you planted here already, you can use the molly to block off an entrance point, like there, for example. And if you're going to be a really good Brim player, which I'm not particularly, but if you want to learn specifically Brim as like a main agent, you're probably going to want to learn eventually some lineups or a way to molly off the bomb itself. So once it's been planted, instead of having to actively peek the person trying to defuse it, you can use the util on the bomb. So no, I wouldn't do it from here. I'd have a lineup from B main or whatever that would bounce off certain things or whatever. But eventually you want a molly to land on the bomb, and that just gives you that's a few seconds where the enemies can't defuse the bomb. And if you have lots of util that can do that, you can stack it one after the other and actually, you know, delay a lot of time on the bomb just by using util onto it like that. And then of course we have the stim, which you toss out. You kind of just throw that out for your teammates when they're executing, just gives them extra speed and whatever, and fire rate. And lastly you have the ultimate. And this is basically like a sort of like a mega version of the Molotov. It's the same idea. You're preventing people from playing in a position. This is not really what you'd use as a sort of defense tactic to delay time. This is more of a sort of I know where they are, I'm going to sort of force them out of a position. This is the number one use for this is to stop plants or diffuses. So I'm hiding here, I hear them push A. I know where they're planting roughly, I get audio on it, I think they're planting here. And I ult it, and then I can peek off the ult. So I could ult there. Now when I ult here, I know they're going to have to run to the right or to here. So that's always one thing to think about. Think about where your util's going to force other people to go. And then try and hold that, so I'm going to fall there. And then I'm going to peek and see if I can catch people running away from it. What you don't want to do is give them places. You want to sort of ult in the middle somewhere. You know, ult sort of, if you ult somewhere like that, then there's lots of places for them to run behind the ult, and you're not actually necessarily going to get as much value out of it. So that's kind of Brimstone in a nutshell. And then with someone like Sova, obviously I don't play very much Sova, but the general premise is you're the intel gathering person. So you're going to send your drone in, like most likely to get information for the first pusher on your team, like a Jett or a Raze or something, whoever's your entry player. And you're just going to scan, and remember to check the corners, you know, don't try and cover as much distance as possible, try and get as much precise info as possible. But the drone doesn't actually last for very long now, so you're really just going to be checking close angles, maybe checking heaven, and that's kind of it. And then you have your dart. Now the way the dart works is you right click for a number of bounces that you want. You can have 1 or 2 bounces, or 0, which means it'll just stick to the first surface that it hits. And then you have an amount of sort of trajectory, amount of speed.
Revealing area.
And it'll bounce off however many surfaces you want it to, and then it'll land somewhere. And the range, these waves, there's about 3 waves. And any enemies hit by that will be pinged. So that's, you kind of want to combo this with other things. You need to be capitalizing off this information, so either you're going to ping someone, you're going to use like a molly, or if it's a Brim ultimate, or a stun or a flash, you're going to use something sort of on off the back of this. Now if you have your Sova ult, you can use that. So I ping someone there, for example, and then I'm going to ult them straight away, force them out, because I know that they're there, whatever. And then the shock darts. Now the shock darts are good for if you know where someone is as well, so you could use your dart first for info. So let's say I'm here, and I think there could be someone hiding there. I'm just gonna fire back sight, ping someone, and I'm gonna use that with a bounce on it, and I fire it in 2 slightly different positions or whatever. And they do around, I think they do a bit less damage now. I'm not sure, I think you can get a kill with 2 direct hits, but it's unlikely you're going to get a complete kill with it. You're mainly just doing, you're kind of just doing enough damage to either to make them want to move, or to make it much harder for them to win a gunfight. Yeah. The Sova's kind of works the same on both sides. On defense, you're kind of just going to want to wait for a few seconds and then maybe drone just to see how many people are pushing a site. Like so. And obviously try and dart somewhere that's a little way away from you, like in there for example. I want to see if there's anyone in heaven. I've used that. If I don't get anything, I know I can focus on a different angle. So this is kind of the closest character you're going to get to like droning in Siege. This is like your most info based character. You've got 2 separate info gadgets. So this is a highly picked agent. This is a good initiator to play. Now with someone like Jett, you're a duelist character, and your objective is obviously to get kills, but most importantly to make space. So what that means is you're going to try and get onto site and try and be tradable. So, for example, instead of challenging this first angle as an attacker, what I might do is use my dash to get to a further angle, and then one of my other teammates can peek this angle. So instead of just peeking and challenging this, what I might do is smoke and dash through, and try and get further onto site here. And then I can peek an angle here, while another teammate peeks at a different angle. And in doing that, I've created space. I've got myself into a position that other agents wouldn't be able to. That's kind of the point of a duelist. You're kind of aggressing more than would be possible with other people. So on attack, that's what you're going to be using the dash for mainly, is to try and get to a further angle sort of quickly like that. You can dash into smokes as well, like that. But just remember that the dash needs triggering. They changed that not too long ago, but you trigger the dash, and then you have an amount of time with which you can use the dash. And the dash will always go whichever way you're pressing on the keyboard, WASD, not whichever way you're looking. So be careful with that. If you're not pressing any direction buttons, you will dash forward. But if you're pressing left or right, you will dash left or right. And then on defense, you kind of want to use the dash to take aggressive angles, and then retreat quite quickly. So for example, Jett's a really good character to use an operator with, because I can push up, take an angle, and if I miss my shot, I'm in a much better position than other agents would be to get out. I can push up, take my shot, I can activate my dash, wait for a push, take my shot, and leave pretty quick. So I can hold off angles. I don't need to necessarily worry about being in cover. I can be in the middle of nowhere really. And as soon as I take my shot, you can dash whatever back into cover, whichever way you want. So you have the updraft as well. So the updraft can be good on attack. It can allow you to get in at different heights. So for example, I might want to dash onto a specific spot. I might want to dash up onto there, so I might activate my dash, and then I can take an angle. And then someone's heard me dash onto site, and if they're going to peek and pre-aim an angle, this might not be where they were expecting. It also enables you to traverse the map really quickly. If I'm here and I want to challenge someone heaven, suddenly I don't need to use the rope. You know, I can updraft onto there sort of quickly like that. And take an angle or whatever. And catch people off guard by how fast your movement speed is. And then of course you have the smokes, which on attack, as I said, you can dash into. On defense you can just use to cross angles. Let's say I've activated my dash, I've taken a shot and I've dashed here. Now I want to get back over there. Well, I can smoke off and run across like that. You can also use the smoke to get across into off angles. So let's say I want to smoke there, and I want to cross, and then I'm in a different angle and they've not seen me cross. And then you can start getting really creative with that and like pretending to have dashed and stuff, you know. Like you throw the smoke, they know you're here, dash, fake dash, then maybe they think you've gone there and then you repeat the same angle. There's kind of, you know, all those kind of things you can do, and that kind of comes just with playing an agent a lot. Yeah, and of course you have the knives. Now the thing to know about the knives is they are accurate whilst moving. You can float, you can jump around. They will always go where the crosshair is, no matter what. And you have 5 of them, and if you get a kill with one of those 5, they will replenish back to 5 again. If you shoot all 5 and you haven't net a kill, then it all runs out. Now if you right click at close range, it will shoot all of the knives that you have in one go, and that will end the ult, regardless of whether you get a kill or not. That would be the end of the ult. In this mode, obviously I'm getting them back because I have the cheats on. But you only want to use the right click if you're confident you're going to get a kill, and you're prepared to switch to your gun, because the ult will run out after that happens. yeah, and then of course the updraft you can use again on defense, maybe to get onto elevations, push up, take whatever aggressive angles you want. Really sort of, you know, angles that people won't expect. You know, like I'm on the edge of the box here. Taking aggressive angles. That's kind of your whole thing, your whole sort of objective as Jett is to catch people off guard, and to sort of create space and get opening picks.